All right, let's try this again. So, technical issues aside, let's try to have a stream tonight. I appreciate everybody who has been patient with me as I navigate this process. It's not been an easy one, but we'll get it right. So, let's do this. Got a couple of interesting topics we're going to talk about tonight. We're moving into a new energy. We're moving out of the period of the Seven of Wands very soon, actually, within the next several days, into an entirely different period of time, right? And so if we look at the wheel here toward the bottom right, we're in the period of time between August 12th and August 22nd, which is represented by Leo and the Seven of Wands. We're about to be moving into the Eight of Pentacle and moving out of Leo and into Virgo. And so now Leo, represented by the card of Strength, is a card of fearlessness, right? Now, Virgo is a different story. Each major of the 22 major arcana, sometimes called the trumps, sometimes called the majors, sometimes called the paths, have a specific significance based on the Kabbalistic tree of life. And so, in the case of Leo, the card is represented as strength. So in this case, we see the card strength, right? And now, again, we're moving into, from the Seven of Wands into the Eight of Pentacle, which is going to put us into Virgo. Virgo is a different energy. And Virgo is represented by the Hermit, which is a very different period of time than Strength. Although, with Strength comes the ability to take advantage of the work that's being done with the period of time as the Hermit, and that's really the goal. That's really the point. So, that said, looks like I got this a little messed up over here. I'm not sure what happened. Pardon me. Maybe I should copy that from a different screen. What was up here? Yeah, sorry about that. There we are. Pardon. And so let's pop those out so we can take a look at what we're moving into. All right, so these are the cards where we are right now. We're in the Seven of Wands energy, and the ruling energy of the period of time is Strength. Okay, and we're going to be moving out of this and moving into the period of Virgo, which is the Hermit, into the Eight of Pentacle. Okay, so let's pop out Eight of Pentacle and the Hermit. This is the Eight of the Pentacle and the Hermit. And again, the energy here is quite different than what we're used to over the past 10 days or so that we've been in this energy now, of kind of things working out for us, or some things that maybe in the past have been difficult or suddenly sort of easier and is working out for us. Some of us are having the reverse effect right now, actually, depending upon where you are karmically, and that's something that we can look at tonight if you'd like, individually. But that's about to change, and that period of time is coming very quickly. And as we move into that period of time, we are in this transition out of this one. If you'll notice that we're in the period right now of Leo, which is fire, and now we're going to be moving into Virgo, which is earth. And so to go from fire to earth is a very different energy, right? I mean, you're talking about untethered motion and movement and energy and dynamic passion into solid, unmovable, reliable, heavy, right? Different energy altogether. Moving in a different direction, right? Fire moves up, earth moves down. Earth is the cause of gravity. Earth is the product of the three elements merging: fire, water, and air. So it's sort of the work completed, and the 8 in particular is a very good card because it refers to you honoring the work and doing your best, and because of that, you have this period of time of being recognized for that, like being busy. And how that ties into the Hermit, it's going to be an interesting energy, and we're going to be talking about that today as well. So that's sort of one of the things that is going to be coming up in the conversation, is related to where we are now compared to where we're going to be moving into in the coming days. So, hello, just me. Thanks for popping in. Good to see you. And so that said, some of the other topics that we're going to be covering tonight are the daily message. The daily message is for everybody. It's basically a snapshot of where we are karmically. A couple of other general readings: the pet reading, the birthday, mind, body, and soul. That's all general. The personal message is individual for everybody, and anybody who participates in the live stream is entitled to a free personal message. And the way that we derive that is I determine your birth card. We'll find out what that is. It's this. It does not change throughout your life, and it's not a divinatory process to determine it. It's determined by the date of your birth. And so I just need your month and day. Do not need the year, but the month and day of your birth, and I can locate your birth card to proceed with your personal message. And in the meantime as well, let me pop it up here for you. Right here. Okay. Okay, January 8th, 1993. Puts you in the 3 of Pentacle. Rara, hello. Good to see you. You are April 14. April 14. You are the 4 of Wand. Rara, 4 of Wand. Hello, SB Pisces. Good to see you. Okay, and just me, January 8th. 3 of Pentacle. 3 of Pentacle. Okay, so give me just a moment here. Okay, 3 of Pentacle. Okay, and within that same space, the range of 3 of Pentacle is Capricorn. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. There we go. Okay. So the your birth card is the 3 of Pentacle. Right there. Let's make that a little bigger for you. Okay. And the major of the period. There you go. Is the devil. Okay. And now the period of time that we're currently in, this is the energy that we are currently experiencing, is the Seven of Wand, okay? So now this is basically the mini horoscope of the 10-degree period of time that we're in right now that ends on the 23rd, okay? Love B, thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. July 31st. Okay, let's get that real quick. And then I'll proceed with just me. So July 31st. Five of Wand. Yes, Five of Wand. Okay. So Love B, Five of Wand. Okay, so just me. What we have here in the Three of Pentacle is an energy that is it's the idea of the work being done. And the work is precise, masterful. Not everybody could do it. The individual who was, don't worry about the Devil card, we'll get there. Not everybody could be trusted with this work. And you'll notice there's three people as well in the card. There's the person on the left that's up on the bench. That's the stonemason that's been hired to do the work because they're the master. They're the actual power here. Now the other two, interestingly, also have the same opinion, but it's not the case. There's the monk in the back, and he's the one who's going to benefit from the work because they're going to worship in that space and they get to enjoy the beauty of the stonework that this mason did. And then you have this third person, which is the financier. This is the person that is paying for the work. So the monk commissioned it, the financier pays for it, the stonemason does it. And now your job is to figure out who you are in that circumstance, but more importantly, you're kind of each of those, and depending upon what connection you're having, whether it's an individual connection between people, a job interview, a connection with family, or you're doing magical work related to inner growth, right? And this is the card of your birth. It does not change. It's kind of like your sign. It stays with you your life. So the Three of Pentacle is your card, and it's a good energy. And it's an energy of things getting done, and that those things that are getting done are precise and beautiful. Okay, now the Devil. Now, what this card means, here's what the card means. The card is, it's first a warning against giving into our base desire, giving into the dark side, right? Like, you can play with it. You can dance there for a little while, but you can't stay there. Certainly there are many driving forces in our experience while we're here, right? But some of those driving forces are more of our base desires, our hungers, the things we lust for. And it's okay, it's healthy, it's part of our growth to explore that. And if we don't, it's actually, we're missing a very large portion of who we are. However, it's important to do so properly. And to not give in to that side of us, because it's very easy once we do that to allow it to inform our decisions and our thinking and our feelings, and we release agency. We give up our identity to the devil. And now, but here's the lesson. If you look at these people that are there chained, the chain is loose. It's not tight, it's loose, and they can lift it off and leave anytime they want. They're not stuck there. So if you do find yourself in the trap of maybe giving into your desires, and very often this can be interpreted as addiction, alcoholism, gambling, compulsive behavior, the habit of getting into bad relationships that aren't good for you and staying there too long, there's a lot of these things that can really come up in that. But it really is just the warning of knowing when to leave. Now, as far as the Seven here, the Seven of Wands is the period of time we're in right now, and what that is representing Hey Jojo, thanks for popping in. Good to see you. You have the high ground. You are fighting, and you're not fighting with courage. You're fighting with fearlessness. There's, regardless of the adversity, you're in a position of confidence, uninjured, winning the battle. You have the high ground, and so what this really is saying is that during this period of time, when you are looked upon to produce your work, to do the thing that you do, it's going to be easy for you to do that. But it's also going to be maybe a little bit tempting for you to take advantage of that situation. Whether that means overcharge, whether that means don't really give it 100%, but say that you did. You have to resist that urge, because ultimately, although it's tempting, that can really damage your reputation. And during this period of time, you may feel like, oh, well, I'm on the high ground, so I can, since I have control of the situation, navigate it any way I like. And that's not really the case. It's really more important than ever that you don't allow your authority, which is earned, to affect the work, and allow the work to dictate the authority, okay? And those are something that you are, this card stays with you your whole life. It's kind of it's one of those sort of snapshots of the environment. And so what this, all it really means is that there's a propensity toward excessive manifestation of your base desire. Now, everyone's base desire is different, and some of them are very unhealthy, and some of them are temporary and transient. And some of them are pretty bad and are whether a product of the family or a product of some type of trauma. And there's certainly ways that we can look into what those things are and make recommendations on how best to navigate that. But a lot of that is really internal work, and maybe, kind of looking at some techniques for discovery. And then if you find that you're ready to speak to somebody about maybe walking the path that is with your karmic trajectory instead of against it. When you swim against the current, it's a lot of work, and you're going to get dragged anyway. So you might as well swim with the current. And if you do, you have the momentum of a river behind you. So it's so easy, right? And so we just have to kind of determine what that trajectory is and then walk it. Okay, so I hope that was insightful. I would certainly say to anybody I do a reading for, or anyone here that is witness to it, if there's anything that you see of any value, please, all I could ask is that you give the video a like here and consider a comment. It makes a big difference to the algorithm. And any donation is really greatly appreciated, so I appreciate that. And so let me pop the wheel up here and just simply find your birthday on the outside of the wheel, and that will determine your birth card. So Rara, for instance, we have April 14th, which is in the period of the Four of Wands, right? So let's take a look at that. Okay, this is the Four of Wands. Okay. And the Four of Wands is in Aries. Which is the Emperor. Okay. Alright, so let's just pop these out real quick. Okay, so first is the birth card, which is the Four of Wands. So let's just get that out. major that's associated with that period of time as well, kind of the ruler of the period, is the Emperor. Okay. Which is also the energy of Aries, right? Your sun sign. So, and then we have the Seven of Wands, which is the period of time that we're in right now. So this is relevant to that circumstance, right? So what we have here in the Four of Wands is kind of a great card as your birth card, because what it really refers to is there's two things that it refers to, and they're both kind of really, really good energies. The first is the celebration, the coming together of people for to honor a something good happening. And so it's you'll see, like, you have this group of people way in the back in the distance on the bottom left there, kind of doing their thing, having their party, and then you have these two people in the front center facing, oh, you're coming, and they're happy that you're going to be there, and then you have this canopy that's been built, the chuppah, in order to sort of welcome this celebration, right? And so it's really a very good omen. And that's the first energy that the card is known for. Another one, and this is more of a hidden, it's a secret meaning that really derived from some of the offshoots of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. But it's actually much older. What it is sort of a secret Kabbalistic meaning for the card, which represents the crossroad. It's the point between. So there is you and your desire. And then there's the universe, which attempts to give to that in order to meet that desire. Okay, and then there's your want of that builds up this space. Now, the only place that pleasure exists, happiness, is at the junction, the moment that those two things meet, where you receive and you want at the same time, and those two things meet, right? Once that passes, and you now have already received, and you're on your second bite of food, your second sip of coffee, your second hug, it's a little less pleasurable, and each one is a little less, and that's what drives us to continue in our lives. And so what this card represents is that crossroad, the point between our desire and us getting what we want. And that moment, although it's fleeting, in fact it lasts virtually an infinitely small period of time, is called ecstasy. And the longer we can stay in that place, the longer we feel that happy, right? The way that we're able to prolong that period of time is through a series of techniques. It's for, I guess, a later time. It would be a little, it's out of the scope of this conversation, but the idea is very good. It basically means that for you, that opportunity tends to present itself often. It's sort of like your nature to find yourself at these points that you can have that perspective easier than others, right? And the Emperor, just with respect to that being your ruling energy of the period of time, talks about authority that's earned, and it's one that is not cocky but calculated. It's a decidedly masculine energy, and all that means is that it's active, as opposed to reactive. But generally speaking as well, it refers to this particular period of time. And if we go back to the wheel here, there's some learning that can take place as well. The period of time of the Emperor starts in the Two of Wands and moves into the 3 and then into the 4. Hello, Ariel. Good to meet you. Definitely can. Sure. I will be finished here in just a moment with Robert, and then we can jump on that, and we'll see what particular spread you'd like. And so you'll see how Aries moves through these three, through the planet of Mars, then into the Sun, and then into Venus, and how that trajectory moves through those wands. They're all fire, but different manifestations of fire, right? And so As you move through that period, there's different levels of how fire manifests. And one example of that, very quickly, is the difference between a candle, which is fire in a very controlled state, almost captive, and then a bonfire or a forest fire or something more natural, which is completely out of control and is a very primal, natural, consuming energy. One gives light, one gives destruction, so that other things can live. So there's a lot of dynamic there with that energy. And with respect to the 7, this period of time is going to be conducive for you to achieve those perspectives, to meet those crossroads. And so your job is to figure out, what is it that you have put out? What is the work that you've done to receive? Because that's what that energy is going to meet in the coming days. And so now would be the time to put that out. Now would be the time to proactively seek that and participate in that process. Okay. So I hope that was insightful. Okay, so let's do this. I have a short list. This isn't my complete deck list, but it's a short list that I brought out for the evening. Unless you'd like me to choose, you can pick one of these decks. This is for Ariel, or otherwise I can make the choice for you as well, depending upon what the question is and the type of reading. Can oftentimes inform the deck choice as well. And so we'll start there. What subject did you like to talk about, Ariel? Would you like to speak about a certain particular question or subject, or more? Okay, dealer's choice, no problem. Could you put your month and day in the chat so I can find your birth card, and then we'll move to the phase of which spread you'd like. And I'll pop up the wheel in the meantime so that others can also participate in this process. Okay, June 4th. Nine of Sword. Mars. Gemini. Air. Right? Now, I just want to clarify, Ariel. This is June 4th, right? Not April 6th. We're talking about June 4th. Reason I ask is that I have a lot of my viewers that are from overseas, and they use a different date standard, and sometimes they I am put month first then day, whereas some other people the standard they're used to is day and then month, and so it can be confusing. So I just want to clarify that you're interested in June 4th, not April 6th, right? So June 4th is the Nine of Sword. Great, okay. Now, as far as the spreads are concerned, there's several that I could do. The Celtic Cross, which is, it's a general type of spread, but it gets specific, general from the respect of the subject matter. It gets specific with respect to the individual and sort of your karmic trajectory, right? The Astro spread is very similar, but this particular spread, it focuses on at the moment of your birth, so that we can have a sense of what was the silhouette, the shape of that circumstance in each house moving forward. Aisha, hello. Yes, if you'd like to get a reading, right now I'm working with Ariel, but I will be available after that. And just simply, we can discuss what particular type of reading you'd like when we're So let's get your card up in the meantime. We determined that was the Nine of Sword. Okay. And now that period of time is Celtic Cross. Great. No problem. Alrighty. This will just take a moment to me pop these cards out real quick. There we go. Okay. And next one's a Nine of Sword. Okay, we're going to get to your Celtic Cross reading in just a moment, okay? Your birth card is the Nine of Sword, and this card, the individual is... One of the words is worry or anxiety. Another way to look at this card, too, is that each one of the swords hanging up is kind of like an ancestor or a prior... instance of whatever the pain is that this person's experiencing. And oftentimes, it's not the person directly. So what I mean by that is that it can be, for instance, a mental illness, low self-esteem, things that like affect us that aren't actually true, but we identify with. And in some cases, it is something that something else. But in the case of a birth card, clearly it's not based on an event or a trauma. This occurred prior to that. This is sort of like the energy of when you were born. And so this is the idea that you have the capacity, the propensity toward taking on the experiences, emotions, feelings around you and of others. This is kind of like the card of the empath. Somebody who sits up at night because they're carrying all the swords of others. The Lovers is this idea of the major arcana of the time. This is associated with Gemini. And it's a very complicated card to speak of generally, right? So there's a lot of Kabbalistic meaning, esoteric meaning, the standard meanings, the different dynamics of the fact that he's looking at her, she's looking at the angel. What does that mean, right? The idea of the story of Eve with the snake and of him with the burning bush. What's that all about, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on in this card. But it will kind of come into play as we go through the Celtic Cross. Okay, and so for people in the room, this is the type of reading that we're going to be doing right now. Hello, Janet. Thank you for popping in. I am available for a reading. Right now I'm working with Ariel, but I will be available after that. And there's a number of different readings that I do, different types of spread. And so it's just a matter of deciding what type of spread that you'd like. And I have a number of different donation methods here, so whatever is comfortable for you, go ahead and do that. And we'll go from there, and then I'll put you on the list after Ariel. Okay, so the Celtic Cross here. You're so welcome, Robert. What we're going to do first is to look at the situation, and now the situation is, in this particular case, since it's more of a general circumstance, we're going to look at rather your current environment. And so let's take your birth card out first, okay? So let me just jump to the desk, and we're going to find your birth card first. And we're going to keep that aside as the crux of the reading, okay? That's some cases it's called the significator. In some cases it's called the focus, the querent. There's a number of terms for this card, but ultimately what the card is designed to do is to symbolize you in this scenario. Okay, let's zoom in on that. All right, so we're going to have you kind of off to the side there as we go through the circumstance, right? And so now the situation, and then the second one that we're going to turn that helps and hurts is sometimes has been called that what crosses you, but that's not 100% accurate, because that implies that it's a negative. It's not always a negative. It's what is kind of influencing you that's out of your control. Something that is an influence in the circumstance that can either help or hurt, and you can't necessarily control. So let's find out what that is. Okay, so first of all, this is the situation. And this is what's helping or hurting. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in on that. And what we have here first is justice coming up as the situation. And then we have what's crossing that, i.e. what's helping or hurting, is the Four of Pentacles. Okay. So now, as you'll see in this position here, we're going to put down a couple of cards. The number 3, which is above you. The 4, which is below you. And then the 5 and 6, which are kind of like a past and a future type situation. Okay. Now, what we have here in the Justice card, justice refers to a couple of things. It's not just a legal matter, which it certainly could reference. And if you are in the process of potentially entering or are going to enter a legal matter, then that obviously is the case, and we stop there, and there's no point in going any further. So if that is the case, let me know. However, very often that's not the case. Very often what the card does refer to, when it's not a direct legal matter, is the idea of justice. And what that means is that the universe is a zero-sum game. Okay, and what that means is that you can't take from here without giving somewhere else an equal amount. That is just nature. It's just the way it works. You push your hand in the sand will give. And there's this balance, and that balance will be met. There is no way around that, right? We can't break the speed of light. We can't... And so that is kind of what justice is really referring, and that's why people claim a lot, and they're right, justice is cold, justice is blind, justice doesn't care about your feelings, right? The idea is that because it's the rules, so we have no choice. It's like the law of gravity. It's like the law of thermodynamics, right? So it's different than the legal system of human beings. However, it's that same energy that drives our legal system. It's why we have it. It's why we find that that's important. And another way to put that, the way this manifests in a human sense, is fairness. Now, what we have here, one of the ways that you can look at this card is hoarding, afraid of loss, and so they hold on to what they have. Another word for this card would be the saver, right? The person who saves money, the person who is the practical one, stable. And so now let's look at this top card here. And if we jump to the diagram, you'll see that this is basically what you, if you were to look at the scenario that we're talking about here, what is the perfected form of that? What's the best way it could work out for you? Okay, and what we're looking at when we see this is the Ten of Pentacle. Let me zoom in on the Ten of Pentacle. Now, the important thing to keep in mind is that you don't actually currently have this. Okay, it's not in your possession. If it were in your possession, it would be here on the bottom, but it's on the top. And so what that means is that it's what you want. It's not what you have, right? It's what you see being the outcome that is good. And what this card represents, let me zoom in on the desk here. You'll see that it's a picture of a family gathered. You have this older person here. You have the dogs coming up to that person. There's some banter here. It's the idea of kind of like the completion of the stages. There's a little child peeking out. So you have the baby, the parents, the father. All the stages are together, and there's a completeness about that. Okay, and so very often this can refer to this familial connection, and there being a solid connection about that it's not some fleeting thing, but it's a solid connection. Now, conversely, this is what you have. Okay, this is what is actually in your possession. It's actually available to you. The card on top is not necessarily available to you. The card on the bottom is, okay? And so what we see is the Hanged Man. The circumstance here of the Hanged Man is a very interesting one. The story of the Hanged Man is sacrifice, but willful. It's not just that you've done without and others have. You've done without on purpose. You've chosen to do that to honor something, whether it's so someone else can benefit, or because you felt like it was the right thing to do. The real story of this card, to those who are familiar with maybe some of the symbolism in Christianity, Peter was crucified as well as Christ. And Peter, when he was, insisted that he be crucified upside down because he was beneath Jesus and didn't want to die the same way, right? But there's this idea of the willful act, that it wasn't a he wasn't a victim of the sacrifice. It's chosen, right? Now, what that means with respect to its position, which is the tools that you have, what's here is that you are in a position right now of like serious giving, and you're kind of the one, like you feel like you're the one who has to do the hard thing, right? Like you're the one who has to do the hard thing so other people can find it easy, and there's an imbalance there, okay? That's the first sensation that I'm getting. I'm going to flip these two at the same time. And what this is the immediate past and the immediate future. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about that. So it's the immediate past and the immediate future, okay? What we have here is the Two of Wands, and the image on the card, if you look at the image, is an image of an individual looking out from these ramparts, and has the world in their hand, right? So the world is in their hand. They're dressed to travel. They're wearing good clothes. They're not hanging around the house. They're going out, so to speak. However, notice that there's two wands. Okay, so not only does this person have the wanderlust, the desire to see the world and take in everything it has, but they want to share that. They don't want to do it alone. So what we have is that the immediate past for you was this position of waiting for somebody else. When you look at the circumstance, then, what you have here is that there is some injustice of you giving more than you maybe feel like you should based on what you've received in return for that. And you're hopeful that that's going to change. And that the side effect of that is going to be this sort of mutual respect. However, that's not the current circumstance, right? So now let's look at this card here, which is the future. That's the immediate future. When I say immediate, I mean weeks before the end of the season type thing. Potentially longer, but usually not. It's usually a pretty, like close type of thing, right? So let's look at this card. What does this card mean? What this card means is inevitable change. Some change we can prolong, some change we can avoid, some change we can do nothing about and get dragged kicking and screaming, right? So that's what this card refers to. What death means is the end of an old way, completely, like it's gone. Depending upon how old people are in the room, 9/11 changed everything. Even globally it did, but in the United States, we've never gone back to the way it was. COVID changed everything. There's no going back to the way the world was prior to COVID. There just isn't, right? And there's all these kinds of things. And in our lives, there's some stages that we enter that's the case, right? If anyone's ever had a car accident, you know what I mean. Or, when you enter a stage of giving birth, there's certain circumstances in your life that completely alter the way that you think. Now, the lesson in the death card, though, and this is an important one. Let me zoom in on this because it's kind of a biggie. There's multiple people on the card. Right here is a person that's actually lying on the ground. They've already succumbed to the change. Then you have this little child that's praying, looking up, fearless. They don't even realize. They're just living their lives and they're just, okay, let me pray. Then you have this woman who's turned away and can't even face it, can't even look at it. Then you have this priest that looks up at him in fear because he knows he has to repent. And he is in a state of begging for forgiveness. Now, which one of these people do you want to be, right? The fact of the card is that we have a choice. The end, we don't have a choice. We don't have the destination is the same for all of us, but the journey's different and how we react is different. Now, what this is not referring to our physical death, but it's referring to the end of the old, and it's okay first to mourn that. Yes, mourn the end of the old way of thinking, the old way of being. It got you where you are. And it's time to move forward, and that's okay. And when we reach that stage, we enter the point of saying, okay, what is this thing now that I'm going to become? Because what comes right after death is rebirth. And now what are you being reborn into, right? So your immediate future is serious change. You've been saving. You've been doing some hard work related to this injustice or this imbalance that needs to be balanced. Some stuff's about to go down, right? And so I'm going to put 4 cards out now, not one at a time, but I'm just going to put down all 4. And these are going to start from the bottom. Your story, what that means is, we don't see the world for what it is. We take in the world through our eyes, ears, nose, mouth, body. We take it in. And then our brain tells a story about what it is that we brought in, or what we saw, what we heard, what we smelled and tasted and touched. It tells a story about that. And then we react not to what we saw, we react to the story. So what this means is what is your story? What is the story you tell yourself? What is the lens that you see the world through? Basically, who it is that we think we are determines the author of the story, right? That, like, how they're going to tell that. And then now from there we move to the outside influences in your life that affect your decisions, that the voices in your head, the people who are the chatter in your ear, your friends that have an opinion, your parents, the influences that we don't consider when we're doing our thinking, like the paradigms that we don't even know inform our thinking but are a very big part of who we are, right? And so that's going to be this card here. And then we move into the 9th position. And now the 9th position is similar to the 3rd position, but it's more psychological, okay? Here is your ideal, but this is more based on your personality and based on, it's kind of like conscious, forward, right? Okay, and now what we're looking at in the position of the 9 there is a little bit different, because this is at a deeper level. Our fears very often come from a very old place and are primal in nature, and so they come from a different place, and so that's going to be that 9th card. And then we move to what is, if nothing changed, the trajectory. Where are you pointed now, and if nothing changed, where are you going? What direction? And what that is going to give us is good information about how do we navigate that? What can we expect so that we can maybe plan around that? And what should my appropriate expectation be in this situation? So let's begin. Okay. Okay. This card refers, very often it refers to a person. Not always, but because the knights can also refer to periods of time. There's various esoteric meanings as well. But really the goal here of this individual, and don't forget that this refers to your story, right? The way you see the world, okay? This person's energy is one of emotionally giving people what they want. So it's kind of like a proactive emotional giver. As an example of that, not saying something that you should so that you don't hurt somebody's feelings, saying something that you normally wouldn't, giving somebody something that is just gives them joy, just to make them happy, saying something to somebody just to make them happy. Hello, Toya, good to see you. Yes, I'm in the middle of a reading right now, but once I'm complete with that, we will take a look at where we are, and then I'll be looking at the list from that point. So, sure. But that said, though, the Knight of Cups is definitely an energy that has the potential, though, to be abused. And now let me explain what I mean by that. The position of this card is very important. Let me zoom back on the desk here. The position of this card is very important because it refers to your worldview. So what that means is that there's something internally in you that believes that you need to give in order to be, well, liked, to be accepted. And so what is it about you that has formed the worldview that you need to be the giver in order that you are accepted? Because that is a defining factor in your decision making, and is probably part of the process of that what led you to be the type to wait, the type to sacrifice, the type to be the one to have to save. Another word for saving is doing without so that you can benefit later. And that's not always easy. Not everyone can do that. Like, why do you have to be the one to always do without? Why do you have to be the one to sacrifice? Why do you have to be the one to wait? Well, it turns out because not all of us are able to do that, and you have a strength that allows you to do that, to sort of be the one to step up when we can't. But that change is important. But so this is the worldview that you're looking through. The lens you're looking through right now is this idea that you have to be the one to provide emotional support. And that can be empty when you're the one who needs. Now, the next card is your outside influence. These are the things that inform your thinking that are not internal, whether they're conscious or subconscious, that are outside of you, that inform that worldview, that help you tell your story, but unbeknownst to you are affecting your story. And what we have here is very interesting. It's the Hierophant, okay? Now, what the Hierophant refers to, sometimes called the Hierophant, sometimes called the High Priest, singular, and this refers to the institution, the church, the law, the university, parenthood. It refers to the institution, kind of the established way of doing things, the status quo. And so what this refers to is a lot of your thinking is informed by you grew in a way, whether this was through the way you were raised or through what you observed, you grew in a way that this works. And so this is what I need to do. And this was reinforced through your experience with these different institutions that you've encountered in your experience. And since it's worked for you, it's a behavior that continues. Now, that can be heavy and daunting. And so one way to work around that is to consider the circumstance, consider where you're coming from, and begin to slowly rebalance that scale to where you recognize it's okay to receive and give. It's okay for there to be a little bit of a balance on what you give and what you take. Okay, and I want to actually point something out here. Let me zoom in so you can see it. These two cards are identical, right? I mean, do you see the similarity? He's holding a flag. He's holding a cup. All right. The flag that he's holding is this. In the center here, with the petals in the Hebrew letters, just that circle in the middle. Okay, that's what he's holding. But that said, this can be navigated, and sometimes you need to let go of the status quo. You know, there's something that came up in the daily readings recently, which is a very important energy that we're all dealing with. And the fact is that our old teachers have failed us. And it's no longer effective for our spiritual growth, and we need to find a new teacher. And that's very true here. Your outside influences are the status quo, and it's not serving you any longer. In fact, it's helping you to maintain this level of give, but that's not sustainable. There's going to be a point where that doesn't work any longer, and you need to... well, you won't have a choice because you're just going to be forced to rest, so to speak, and then resentment builds and all these other things. So that's not good at all. But now hopes and fears, like I had mentioned, are different than your more forward, casual. The hope and fear is actually karmic in nature. It's subconscious in nature. It's kind of part of you. The Page of Sword refers to mental accuracy, mental speed, science, math, critical thinking, left brain. It refers to, however, transient, small bursts of creative energy. As far as hopes and fears are concerned, and that card landing where it does, it also represents, and this is again, it's sort of a secret meaning that's now not secret, but it's not widely known. It represents all of the air signs at once. And now what that can lead to is mental instability, particularly confusion at times because of mental instability. So it can lead to, and I don't mean multiple personality disorder, but you may feel out of control sometimes. You may feel like you're kind of bouncing around, hyperactive when you're trying to communicate due to there being an anxiety that leads to a confusion on what you're trying to get across. But just occasionally, it's fleeting, but it comes up, and sometimes it can come up at a bad time. And it can be a little hard to control that, right? And so the Page of Sword in this position is the idea of you recognizing that that is a possibility. As far as a hope is concerned, I don't see that as, I don't. I see this rather as more of a something that is internally inside of you that you fear that has occurred in the past, and it's a behavior that you're concerned will maybe manifest. Now, the final outcome here the Four of Cups is an image of an individual that's sort of meditating, right? And they're looking at their trophies, like they're each one of these is an emotional win, and they're sitting there meditating. But that's not actually true. What they're doing is they're focused on these three things, but missing this fourth one. Like, look at all these terrestrial cups that I have, when here's the one true cup of truth from God that's being ignored because of these terrestrial cups that are, right there in front. So the lesson here, as a and we'll get specific in a second, but as a general rule, is this idea of focusing on this and missing that, right? Or focusing on the lower world and missing the upper world. And specifically with respect to the emotional side, the heart as opposed to the mind. And so what this means in this state is that there's this idea of you looking potentially at past emotional wins or losses and missing the truth, which has actually always been and is and always been accessible to you. Okay? All right, so I'm going to pause there and ask you if there's which or if any of this circumstance you want to clarify, and we'll go through that phase of clarification and then go from there. Okay, so I'm just going to pause and ask if that is, where you'd like to clarify. I'll do this as well. As the cards are out, I'll take a screenshot so that you can study it as well, if you'd like on your own there. Well, let me lift this up here. So we'll start like that. Okay. And I'll just have these staggered so you can see them, but you'll know the order. All right, so it's like that. Okay. And I'll put that cross card as a second image. So let's just take a quick screenshot of this. Okay, and now I'll put this across here. Okay. All right, Ariel. So what I'll do is I'll email you the screenshot so that you have it. And I'll have it as well so that we can complete the reading the next time I do a live stream if you pop in. Okay. Alright. And in the meantime, I hope that was insightful. You know, again, I'd like to finish that as well. Currently running a promotion. Any donation of $10 or more receives a free incense kit. They're actually coming in tomorrow, so I'll be shipping them out Monday. Okay, and so they'll be out Monday. And so if you would like your incense kit, just put your obviously private message it or email it to me. Don't put it in the chat. Your mailing address, and I will get it out to you Monday. Okay. All right. So I guess Aisha, if you are still in the room, I am available for a reading. As well, Toya, if you'd like a reading, I am available. I'm not sure who else is in the room. Aisha? Okay, great. There you are. Hello. Okay, so which spread were you interested in? I mean, I only have fancy diagrams for my Celtic Cross or my Astrology house reading. But I've been reading cards for 40 years. There's a lot of different spreads that I do. It just depends upon the type of information you're looking for. And we can determine at that point what's best suited. And so what are your thoughts? Now, the Mind, Body, Soul is a, starts as, it's really a 5-card reading. So that's really a misnomer that it's a 3-card reading. It's a 5-card reading. Okay, so basically what I do is, depending on the reading, again, if there's a certain subject that you're interested in learning about, if there's a certain individual you'd like to see how your compatibility will work, we can do that. Oh, Ariel, there you are. You popped back in, okay. Yeah, it looked like sort of the stream dropped off, or I'm not 100% sure, but I'm glad that everybody's back. Okay, so, okay, quickly then, let's do this. Aisha, put your month and day of birth in the chat, and I will find your birth card quickly. And Ariel, what I'll do is, thankfully I took a screenshot of your reading, and so I have your cards laid out. A couple things as well. Ariel, the incense is coming in tomorrow, and so I'll have the incense as well as the holder and I'm going to be shipping them out on Monday. Okay, so I'm not sure which method you used for the donation, but if you haven't, make sure that I know your mailing address so that I can send it out to you. And obviously it's only for U.S. and Canada, but if you are in the U.S. and Canada, then you're entitled to that, and I'll be happy to send it out. But make sure I have the way to do that. And if not, just email me at the Gmail, right? Don't put it in the chat or anything or in the comments, but email me and I'll get it out to you. And I want to complete the reading. Okay, so January 28th, Aisha. January 28th. 5 of Sword. 5 of Sword. Okay. Oh, wrong one. Let me just jump here really quickly. 5 of Sword. Okay. Where is my, there we go. Okay. Let's just pop that out real quick. So this is the 5 of Sword, very quickly, for Aisha. The 5 of Sword is related to the idea. See, there's 3 people here. This person in the front maliciously is benefiting, like they're kind of like a thief. They're sort of like a bully. And then you have the person in the middle, that's the in-between one, that's trying to comfort the person in the back. And then the person in the back is obviously the bully, right? And so there's 3 different circumstances happening here, and it's kind of like it's your you flow through these throughout your life, one and then the other, right? So sometimes you're the bully, sometimes you're the victim, sometimes you're the one that's standing there deciding, do I do nothing, do I do something? And it's sort of that energy, and it refers to the idea of that it's our choice on how we interact in that circumstance, and what our motivation is for doing that. Right? Is it for greed? Is it for justice? Is it for practicality? And what is it that is? Very often, unfortunately, though, the card represents there being some type of maliciousness or ill intent or selfishness related to that action. With respect to the energy of the time that we're in right now, which is the 7 of Wands, what we're talking about is that you do have the high ground. So you are not in the position of being the victim. But over the next several days, you could potentially be in the position of being the taker. And so be wary of that. Be careful that you fall within your moral standard, and you don't take advantage of the times that you have power, but rather use those times to temper so that you can gain strength and respect by living right, by acting properly. There's no better way to judge a person's character than to see how they treat the people underneath them. And so when you find yourself like this period of time in a position of power, is the time for you to step up and do that. And so don't be the one in the front, be the one in the back, or the one in the middle. And instead of turning away from the bully, turn toward them. Okay. So that said, I hope that was insightful. Hello, Alucard. All right, so Ariel, let's take a look at sort of where we were here. The relationship circumstance that you're talking about here is something that is an important one, and what I'd like to do is to do a different spread for that. That's going to get a little more to the heart of you and him as an individual. It's specifically designed for relationships, and we've had some learning occur during that Celtic cross that we can take some of those elements of where you're coming from. There's a lot of motivations here that came up. Some of them are from your past and are related to how you were raised. Some of them are related to you as far as like biologically and genetically, like from our family, like we are our ancestral power. And some of them are related to how we've interacted with the world and how it has affected us. And so there's, I'd love to expand on that a little bit with a specific reading related to relationships, you're quite welcome, Aisha, anytime. I'm not sure where everybody is. I'm on the East Coast of the United States. It's almost 5 a.m. And I do have some obligations tomorrow. But what I'd like to do, if you could, I'll have your contact information, I imagine. But if not, if you could shoot me an email also, and we could set a time maybe tomorrow afternoon or evening that we can do this and continue. There'll be no additional charge. I just want to continue from where we left off, but add to that with a relationship connection. Okay, so just shoot me an email. We'll convene, figure out a time to sit down and do that. Typically, I do Zoom, or we can do it over the phone, but it'll be private, right? So it's not going to be over YouTube or anything else. Well, either the phone, Zoom, or we'll pick some platform that's appropriate, and we'll continue that reading. Okay, Ariel? Otherwise, in the meantime, I really appreciate everybody joining the stream. I had some trouble with technology tonight, so I was on very late. I'm usually on around an hour earlier than that, so I kind of really had to make up for some time, and it's I have to run, unfortunately. But thank you so much to everybody that joined the stream, and anybody who wasn't able to receive a personal message. I do provide them. At anyone who participates, you are entitled. So all I ask, in the comment of this video, just put your month and day. Don't need the year. The month and day of your birth, and I will comment to your comment with your reading. Okay, with the that's based on your card of the day and your birth card, and there's a horoscope. And so just put in the comment of the video, put your month and day, and I will provide a free reading to anyone who would like to participate. Just go ahead and do that, and I'll take care of it. Okay. Otherwise, I'll be streaming tomorrow. So everyone have a great rest of your evening.